This is the week 2 overview video for our course, The Fantastic in World Literature. This week, there are 2 readings on the schedule. One is theoretical and one is a piece of literature. So I'm going to start with the first thing I want you to read, which is the theoretical piece. So I'm asking you to read a relatively short article by a literary critic, an American literary critic. His name is Michael Berube. And this article gives an overview to disability studies, which is a way of approaching texts, whether those texts are literature or film or art, and being attentive for representations of disability. That includes characters who have disabilities, but it also includes the way that kind of the text treats those disabilities and the way text relates to disability in general, even if it is not part of the identity of one of the central characters. Some of the important things that stood out to me as I was reading the Berube this week is that he starts with some ways that disability becomes a metaphor in many narrative texts. A metaphor of passing, right? A person who has a disability wants to present themselves as being abled, right? As not having a disability. So they try to find a way to pass as abled instead of sort of letting their disability be known. Sometimes we see hyper ability, right? Like our hyper abilities like a superhero would have are also sometimes represented as a disability, right? When the hyper ability becomes a reason that the person is rejected, then it comes into the realm of disability. We sometimes see disability represented as a moral failing, right? If you have a disability, there must be something intrinsically wrong with you. This sometimes comes out of a very fundamentalist Christian perspective that if you have a disability, God must be angry with you or with your family, right? Someone must have done something in order for the disabled person to deserve this, which is a problematic viewpoint, I think, for everyone. And then finally, the issue of disability as an inspiration, right? Look at what this disabled person has been able to accomplish. Shouldn't we all be like them? And while it does honor that disabled person, it does not recognize their lived reality and their experience of their disability. So he comes to this phrase kind of in the middle of the article, nothing about us without us. And that's a phrase that is common not only in the disability activism community, but also in other minoritized communities, racial and ethnic communities who are trying to raise their platform and have more agency in the conversation in the United States, particularly in publication, are using that similar tagline, nothing about us without us. So the idea that that disabled people, in our case, that's what we're talking about this week, should be part of the storytelling process. If you find that article to be pretty dense as you are reading and annotating it in Kami, I have also linked on the overview page for week 2 a brief TED Talk by the same author, by Michael Berube, and I will put a card up here above my head. And he goes through a lot of the same ideas in the TED Talk that we have in the article. So you should definitely read the article. The TED Talk is optional. But if you are still having trouble with some of the ideas after you've gotten to the end of the article, the video might help you to kind of make sense of what's going on. So then once you have read that, then I would like you to go and read Franz Kafka's Metamorphosis. So this is a story of a man who one day wakes up as a giant cockroach. And that's not something that we would normally consider as a disability. If we were to list disabilities that human beings experience, turning into a giant cockroach is not one that maybe would come to the top of our minds. We might think of things like wheelchair use or blindness or deafness as disabilities that we are more familiar with. But remember, this course is about the fantastic, right? So Kafka presents us with a disability that's not possible in our own time, right? He presents us a disability that is something that is fantastic, that is out of the ordinary, that is not possible in our realistic world. So, as you are reading Kafka, I'd like you to keep those ideas that you get from Berube in mind, right? What are the ways that the relationships inside um, the main character's family change after he wakes up as a cockroach? Are there ways that the world could accommodate him to make space for this new way of being? Is the ending of the story inevitable, or could he still be a contributing member of society? Uh, so you are also welcome to comment on other aspects of the text. You are not only required to comment on the disability studies aspect, but I'm hoping that you will kind of put these two readings together, right? That your reading of Kafka's Metamorphosis will be more fruitful because you'll have Berube's ideas in mind. And then finally, the work that you're turning in this week, the biggest thing is that weekly reading journal where you can respond to the week in general, or you can focus on one small piece that you want to talk about. If you have any questions, shoot me an email. And I look forward to seeing you in Cami, in Canvas, and in Zoom.